the domestic gas price hubs are available in several countries. Therefore, we have suggested that we can look at the wellhead price in these centers as well as the Japanese JCC price. That will be a net back because that is an imported price. Therefore, we can find out that price, and the average of the two will be the price for gas. Audit is the prerogative of the CAG. Authority or that power or that mandate to CAG will remain. However, we have said the authority of the CAG to audit is unquestionable. I mean, I think it is there.
In a radical overhaul, the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Panel has recommended freeing up of gas pricing and migrating to an entirely new model for determining gas pricing. But is the new proposal workable? What will it mean for the power and fertilizer sectors, and more importantly, for the oil and gas sector? That's the big topic on We Mean Business today. I'm Shweta Rajpal-Kohli. Also coming up later on the show, we'll discuss if we're bracing for a diesel price hike and if the government will bite the bullet on this very politically contentious move. Let me introduce our guests on the show today. Dr. Kirit S. Parikh, Chairman of the Integrated Research and Action for Development, also former Planning Commission member, joining us on a link with me here in the Delhi studio. Mr. Sushil Tripathi, former Petroleum Secretary. Mr. R.S. Sharma, former CMD of ONGC. Mr. Narendra Taneja, well-known energy expert. Also, Mr. S. Radhakrishnan, former CMD and Director Marketing of BPCL, joins us from Mumbai. So does Mr. Sudhir Rao, MD of Skoda India. Skoda Auto India joins us also from Mumbai. Thanks very much. We've got a power-packed panel clearly on this show, and we'll try and thrash out all the issues that impact the oil and gas sector at this point in time. But let me start with the big news that has come in on the panel chaired by the Prime Minister's Economic Advisor, Dr. C. Rangarajan, recommending that the domestic gas price should be indexed with international prices, implying that the present practice should be done away with and scrapped. At the same time, it has also proposed doing away with the existing production sharing formula for exploration and replacing it with sharing of revenues between contractors and the government. Let's try and understand this, simplify it and break it up for our viewers. Let me go across also to our correspondent Rajkumar Sahu, who also joins us on the show. Raj, explain to our viewers very simply what the Rangarajan panel has recommended.
There are four broad sets of recommendations by Dr. Rangarajan for the oil and gas sector. The first is, of course, as you just heard the soundbite of Dr. Rangarajan, he talked about the audit part of it, and he is saying that there's no question that anybody can actually question or raise any kind of question about the powers of CAG for auditing any kind of oil and gas block, either it is high value or low value. For low value, there could be a panel of auditors that will be recommended by CAG, and they can audit the low value blocks. For the high value oil and gas blocks, just like KG, D6 of RIL, that can be audited directly by CAG. The second thing, of course, was the contentious issue was of gas pricing. For that, what the panel has actually recommended, there are three benchmarking they have taken, that is of gas prices in the US, gas prices in the UK, and gas prices in Japan. So out of these three, they will take an average, and there will be second gas pricing out of which will be the wellhead pricing, and the average will be, it's a complex structure, but then the average basically of these three gas pricing we are talking about, that will be taken for deciding the domestic, and this will not include the transportation and the other levies that will be included. So the end product or end gas price would be much higher. So that is the second thing. The third thing is, of course, the production sharing contract presently, which actually allows the contractor to recover their investment in a certain oil and gas blocks, to recover that and then share a higher amount with the government. It's not that the government is not getting any kind of revenue from the day one, but they will be getting higher revenue later on. But that has been scrapped, and they are saying that it will be a biddable item. Probably the experts in the panel will be explaining the whole issue in a much detailed way. And the fourth is, of course, the management of the contracts, for which the DGH has also pointed out earlier that that is the weak thing that the Rangarajan committee has not actually looked into. But yesterday, when we were talking to Dr. Rangarajan, he has clearly said that there is a committee of secretary, also a interministerial committee that will be looking into the minor issues, and then that will speed up all the approvals for the oil and gas sector, and that will help the oil and gas sector in a much bigger way.
All right, clearly gas pricing has been a very, very controversial subject in India, and are we now working towards a new regime, a new formula that will also do away with some of the ambiguity that we've seen and also the controversies that we've seen around gas pricing? Let's try and take that forward to our Power Pack panel today. Dr. Kirit Parikh, your first thoughts on what Dr. C. Rangarajan has recommended and the committee has recommended. Is the new formula workable? Is it fair and equitable?
Yeah, I think it's certainly a workable formula. I think it is really bringing the gas pricing to the international prices. It becomes almost trade parity prices, and I think this is really the right way to go. This is what we had recommended in the Integrated Energy Policy Committee, and I have been arguing it for many years. Then the one interesting and innovative solution here is that instead of the erstwhile production sharing contract, you have now a revenue sharing contract. So the question of how much was your cost, who will manage it, who will say this is really the cost, and that the cost has been recovered and then you are sharing production, all these would be simplified. You don't need to worry about what the cost is. You just see what is the revenue that the company has got, and you share in that revenue, and the revenue share would increase along with the annual production rate. And I think this is a much simpler way. What I don't understand, however, is that once this is done, where is the question of auditing comes? Because revenue is very clear, how much you have sold, what you have earned, that will be straightforward. Only that needs to be verified. Earlier, the revenue or the cost was being audited by the CAG, not CAG, sorry, the petroleum regulator, or by the ministry. But now there is no need for that. You just really know how much you have sold, what price you have sold, and you give a certain share of it. I think this is a much simpler, more transparent system, and I think it would lead to a much more efficient use of gas in the country, and will give the right kind of incentive to producers to produce more gas.
All right, Mr. Tripathi, I'd like you to also touch upon what's wrong with the present system.
I think difficulties arise because of the Supreme Court judgment and its implementation, which says that the natural resources, until they reach the end consumer, they continue to belong to government.
Right.
So this has thrown the entire concept of production sharing out of the window, and the operators, they become only service contractor, because all along our assumption was that production sharing meant that operator was free to market, free to distribute to whosoever he liked, and free to price, and government was free to price and free to market. Now, if it becomes government property until it reaches the end consumer, and government is determining whom to market and what price to fix, then CAG comes into the picture. And even if we take so many averages of various prices, I find it very difficult to think that this can be easily implemented. We have not been able to implement market related prices in LPG, in kerosene, in diesel.
Right.
So how will we do it in gas? After all, there are consumer ministries, steel, fertilizer, power, and city gas, PNG, CNG. So I think so long as it remains with the government to determine the price, I find that recommendations are not likely to get implemented.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app, fully optimized for retina display, full screen view, faster response time, and Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.